Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Larry BROUHARD, and welcome once again to For the Public Good. We're the show that tries to identify corporations, institutions, and individuals who are doing good and doing it well. And tonight, we've got a very special treat for you. Vinci, would you like to introduce our guest, please?
Okay, our guest this evening is VIVIEN Mangalindan, director, producer, broadcaster, journalist, and corporate and academic trainer. She is a GNN host for Show and Tell and also hosts Hay Nako, a stress-free show on DZRH-TV. As founder of EduTrainMent Learning Services, VIVIEN provides learning combined with entertainment, simplifying the complex while making it entertaining. Tonight, she's here to talk about that and to convince us that it's more than what you say, it's how you say it. So hello, good evening, ma'am. Welcome to the show.
Okay, well, welcome to the show, Vivian. Thank you for coming. Really happy to have you here. And I guess I should explain that I met Vivian at the Corinthian Coffee Clutch, and when I met her, I said, wow, I've got to have her on the show. And so we're here tonight. And we're going to talk about things that both of us probably are very interested in, is education and training and entertainment. Putting it all together is really a good thing. Give me a little bit about how you got started in these things. And
I hate boring teachers. And because I teach in a way in the corporate world, in academe, and even with people like you, I casually teach because we're all learning from each other. So I package education plus training with entertainment and enjoyment.
Well, that's great, because as I progressed through school, the teachers got more and more boring. It seemed to me that the more educated they were, the worse they were. And by the time that they were teaching a graduate course, it was one of the greatest sleeping pills in the whole wide world. And so that was something that I always said to myself that I was never going to let that happen to me if I was going to be training. So what are some of the tricks to this trade of edu? You've coined a term, EduTrainMent, right?
EduTrainMent. So it's education plus training plus entertainment. It's really not tricks, it's more of common sense. Meaning, if you take a look at me, 55% is body language. 38% is voice tone, voice tone, voice tone, and only 7% is words when it comes to message.
Oh, absolutely. That's one of the things. I ran a school in Japan for 40 years, and that was one of the things that I didn't allow there to ever be any teachers' chairs in the because you lose that. What would you say? It's 38% of
body language.
Body language is spatial arrangement is really important in training. It certainly is.
You want me to give you a typical example of the message, not the words?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Let's pretend I'm a teacher. I walk in. Good morning. How do you feel? Do you feel like it's a good morning? Do you feel like you want to learn? Come on, Larry, hit me.
Well, you scared the heck out of me. I mean, that's absolutely correct. And by the way, Vinci is here because Vinci is that coming up part. She's learning to be an entertainer and she's studying speech at UP, and this is her chance to do a little bit. And so I hope she's going to jump in here at any time and make comments. You don't have to ask questions. You can say, I disagree, or I do agree, or don't scare me, or whatever as we go along, okay?
She can dance while we're having a discussion.
Right, okay. Well, I don't have that kind of energy myself, so...
I'll tell you something. Do your viewers know that you play the guitar and you compose songs?
I've tried to keep it a secret, but one of these days we're gonna bring my guitar and we'll sing some of those songs, maybe one of these.
You mean no one ever told them before?
Well, thank you very much for telling that. Well, and I'll pay you later.
Yeah. He's pretending he doesn't know. But really, singing and dancing are ways of educating people.
Oh, absolutely. One of the things that I've always felt about being a teacher or a trainer is you've got to be funny, especially teaching a foreign language. When you're teaching a foreign language. And I should mention, by the way, that Vivian speaks most of the languages in the Western world here. I guess you speak English and Tagalog, of course, and Spanish and French. And
the best one of all is body language.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. You know, that's the one that works. Yeah, that my problem, I guess, is I'm a clown. You know, but trying to make sure that that the message doesn't get lost in your clowning around. You know, is one of the things too. And so again, most of my experience was in Japan, and trying to bridge the gap and teaching the Japanese a foreign language. And the thing is trying to keep it from being what we used to call step and fetch it, you know, in the United States, of being too silly, but making sure that the message gets across, but then being entertaining, you know, and fun. And there is a kind of a fine line that you have to find in doing that.
Yes. It's not really about being funny. It's being understood. For example, you have a classic case of someone in the house breaks a favorite expensive antique jar. The last thing on earth you want is for someone to come to you and say, "Sir, I broke the jar." It doesn't match. Why are you smiling? So I tell people, what you say must match the body language. If you're saying you're sorry and you broke a jar, you have to look sorry, like, "Sir, I'm sorry I broke the jar." Voice tone as well.
Well, you know, that's an interesting thing. That's also a cultural thing. You know, I played tennis, and one of the things that the American baseball players in Japan always complained about is when a Japanese player would make an error, he would laugh. You know, well, that's something we would never do in the West. But in Japan, that's very common, and I notice it here as well. That it seems to be in the Philippines. If you the embarrassment of having made a mistake culturally, you tend to laugh, don't you? And so that probably works out okay, I would think, culturally in the Philippines. What do you? How about you? How is?
Well, I think it's something about more than knowing the body language. I think it's more of knowing also the intercultural relationship of people.
No, that is a really hard thing, you know, because you're absolutely right. That caused lots of friction between the American ball players and the Japanese ball players. And I still, you know, I've been here for 48 years in Asia, and it's still, I said, why are they laughing?
Exactly.
You know.
Well, what I advise people is this, because now that we have internet, we have YouTube, and people do business globally, I just tell them, can you just pause and think, what does the word mean? Think of the word. What would the emotion be for that word? So say, I'm sorry, I must generally look sorry. I tell them to think quickly. When you say a certain word, please match your voice tone and your body language. Try asking me if I love you. Try.
Vivian, do you love me?
Yes. No.
Are we married? No, no, we're not, right? That's yeah, that probably maybe that's the answer that I might get. You know, that might be the answer that I would get. No, of course, body language and your facial expressions are very, very important. One of the things, you know, you said something about being sorry, and one of my pet peeves about people that do an apology is, gee, I apologize if what I said has been offensive to anyone. Well, that's not an apology at all, you know.
Yeah.
It's not an apology. It's like, yeah, what kind of bum are you for thinking that, you know, I offended you, you know. A true sorry, one word. I've always thought that the magic words in English are thank you, please, and I'm sorry. And you don't need any more than that when you're saying you're sorry. I don't.
There's one special trick that I can share, which is very easy. You know what it is?
What's that?
It's not saying any words, but just delivering the body language.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, that's good. Oh, sure.
So, like if I tell you I'm sorry, and you're like, what do you mean sorry? If you were my husband, my sweetheart, my lover, or whatever, I would just go up to you, give you a nice warm hug, and probably give you a peck.
Hugs are always good, you know. Hugs work, you know.
Yeah.
Better than hitting, you know, and things like that, you know. I agree. The thing that I think is lost a lot of the time is body language.
Yes.
And the problem we have also a lot of the time is when we're in TV. We can't use a lot of body language because we can't move around quite as much as we might like to, as we could jumping around a stage somewhere. But we can do a lot with our eyes. We can do a lot with our mouths.
And again, there's also a cultural problem because for some culture, they don't want the touchy people, and for us Filipinos, we are touchy people.
Boy, that's something. You don't touch people in Japan, you know. I mean, you don't say, "Hey, Joe, how's it going?" It's not one of the. And yet, people here are more like the people I grew up with out of Mexico and in the Southwest United States. Very touchy, very hot, very.
I like the hot
huggy,
part.
the hot part. Yeah. Well, some of us have cooled off considerably in later years, you know. But, yeah, no, that's true. You know, yeah, different cultures. You have to be very careful about touching. You know, especially in today's world. I do my very best never to touch a lady at all, you know, because it's just too dangerous. Because you don't really know, especially cross-culturally. You know, it's tough. But in today's world, it can be taken the wrong way very often, I think. You know.
And also children. There was a time where if you were a teacher, you could go and hug the child, regardless of gender. But now that could become a problem.
Unfortunately, that has become a problem where in many cases it's innocent and a perfectly good thing. I mean, little kids that get hugs are, you know, my daughter just finished the 1st grade, loved her teacher, and they did a lot of loving in that class. I mean, they did a lot of hugging, you know, with the teacher and stuff. But it was all girls class and an all and a lady teacher as well. So it's a little bit easier that way. You know, it doesn't work out so well if you got a male and a female. You know, it doesn't work out so well.
I'm going to go back to what you said a while ago about how much, you can see I'm moving a lot, but I'm still within the frame.
Right.
That's one of the things I teach. How much to move when you're intimate with a camera, how much to move when I'm intimately close with a small group, and how much to move when I'm in theater or in, like, politics, campaigning.
Yeah, how big can you be? You know, that's really true. I teach a lot of speech courses, and one of the things that I always make sure is that you always have to be a lot bigger than your visuals. You know, a lot of times people will hide behind their visuals, or they'll hide. Remember the old OHPs where people hide behind the OHP? You don't do that so much with PowerPoints anymore, but people then will just start looking at the PowerPoint, looking at their computer rather than looking at the audience. You know, which is a hard thing. So being bigger. And knowing how big to be in that environment is a tough one. You know, that's a hard one, you know.
I'm going to expand on the concept of big. You realize tonight we're using the tables.
Yes.
That's one of the little neat tricks that I have. I told Larry, I'm going to be on your show, waist up. You produce some tables.
Well, we did that for you, and
thank you very much.
And as you're thanking us, we've just finished the first part of our show here. And ladies and gentlemen, don't anybody go away, because we're going to be right back talking with Vivian and learn a few more things about how to communicate, not just with words. Don't go away.